Off we go. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining Derek's live chat show. Who would have thought on the 23rd of March we'd still be doing this in October when the Prime Minister's still talking out more and more lockdown, etc., etc. And I just had a quick thought to do some chat shows, interview a few people. I thought I did two or three, and this is the 70th one that I've done. So I'm not telling you that to impress you. I'm just telling you that to impress upon you. If you put the energy in, you get the energy back. And the people that I've interviewed, some of them have been absolutely fantastic, and most of them have been brilliant. Now, I just want to tell you about one or two things I put in my newsletter, because there's some interesting things this week. Eddie Van Halen died, and who was the the lead on Van Halen, the 70s and 80s heavy rock band. But there was an interesting negotiation that no one knows if it's quite true or not, in that he insisted when he negotiated the contracts that he had M&Ms in his dressing room and all round the back of the show, and there should be no brown ones in them. And that sounds an absolutely ridiculous thing to do, but the reason he did it was he wanted to know that the roadies, the people that were putting the stage up, because it was such a dangerous set, had actually read the contract, knew what they were doing, and therefore if there were brown M&Ms in the bowl in his dressing room, he knew that everything had to be really checked. And the point I wanted to make as a negotiating advisor is you can insert any contract, any clause you like into a contract, and then that allows it to be negotiated out. And my experience in Barclays was that contracts very often got broken, but at least having something in writing got you around the negotiation table, so you could get a win-win deal at that point. The other thing I wanted to mention was there's been some very sophisticated scams recently, and I have to tell you that two of the people that come on this show have been scammed, and they're the people that I wouldn't have thought would have been scammed. These are usually telephone calls which purport to be a bank. They're usually when you're busy and they ask for information, and I know that most of us would say, well, we'd never give anyone any information, but these two people, who are very smart people, did. And it was such a good psychological scam that they gave information that they shouldn't have given. And they were lucky to get away with it. And yesterday in the Sunday Times, it said that some of our COVID details is being sold by pubs and restaurants to scammers. So just be really vigilant. I just wanted to mention that. And the last negotiation tip I wanted to give you is if you ever split the difference with anybody, remember, you never need to go 50-50. If they say, let's split the difference, you could go 60-40, 70-30, which could make you just that little bit of cash. On Thursday, we're going to have a review, a bit of a rehearsal of what we've done. So join us if you want. We usually have a small group of people, which will be great. And I want to rehearse one or two of my slides with you, if I may, for this super big talk I've got to a firm of global solicitors next Wednesday. So that's Thursday. The Prime Minister's been on, locking us down, negotiating with Sir Keir Starmer very recently. Now I want to introduce my friend Graham Jones. I've known Graham for 15 years. When I first joined the Speaking Association, he was the president of the London Speaking Association. When I had my arm twisted to become the president and the chairman, the first person I spoke to was Graham, because I wanted his advice, and I also wanted to deal with Graham that we supported each other totally in front of anybody else, but behind the scenes we talked about the issues that we didn't agree on. And Graham and I often don't agree on things. He uses Microsoft and I use Apple. That's the first thing that we don't agree on, and he'll say something about that in a minute, but I'm not going to let him say it yet. And I think if you ever do run an association or anything, you need to have a deal with the person that you trust, because in associations, when you're negotiating in associations, all sorts of funny things happen when you're in those meetings. And Will and Graham were telling me about one or two of things that happened last week on Zoom for the new chairman of the Speaking Association, and she had to handle it very, very carefully, and she did it really well. Graham Jones, as you probably know, is does everything. He's Mr. Fix Everything. He's a psychologist. He's a lecturer at Buckingham University. In fact, he's running the MBA course at Buckingham University. He runs his own business, advises on the internet, and advises me. Graham, thanks for joining us today. It's a great pleasure to have you back again. And I think the first question I really want to ask you is what's on the tip of everybody's tongue: social media, the internet. What should we be doing now? Because we're all bombarded by it.
I thought the question on the tip of everybody's tongue is, why is a PC superior to Apple? I think that's quite obvious. I used to have Apple Macs and I got rid of them after having had them for about 5 years, and got rid of them to go to a PC, and I've never looked backwards. Always look forward to PCs. Yeah, and Apple owners, of course, have got big problems coming up. Never mind, we're diverted, haven't we? Social media.
You can't do that, Graham. You've got to tell us. You can't do that to us.
Before he always used to do that. That's why we had to agree in front of other people and disagree.
Do we all want to know why a PC is
thank
better?
you, Will.
Yes, thank you, Nancy.
Yes, thank you.
Come on, Graham, you're not getting away with that.
Okay.
Before you do that, I just want to tell you that I had you on gallery view and I'm recording, and I've just read the body language of who's got a PC and who's got an Apple. And if you don't believe me, I will send you the results of the first survey, because my pal Keith Watson was nodding like mad at Graham. And there we go. Graham, you've got to explain yourself already.
Okay, well, 90% of the world runs on PCs and non-Apple products. Besides the fact that Apple has managed to get valued at $2 trillion, it's still only representing a tiny proportion. So almost all the world's development is not done for Apple. It's done for PC, and almost all the products that you use on an Apple have had to be ported across to an Apple, which means they weren't designed for it in the first place. There's very few Apple products that were designed for it in the first place. That's why you have lots of problems. And as a speaker, I can tell you that every conference I've ever been to, whenever I've gone to take any kind of presentation, the people running the conference, the only problems they have are people who come with an Apple. Everybody comes with a PC they've never had a problem with. Big conferences, it's only people with Apple Macs that cause problems at conferences. So, and even Apple themselves have problems at their own conferences. Yeah, so when they launched the iPhone 11, which had face recognition. Yeah, the face recognition didn't work when they launched it to the world. So they said, here it is, it's face recognition. This can only be unlocked by the chief executive. And he looked at the phone and it wouldn't let him in. So there he was, broadcasting his own product to the world, and it wouldn't work. So yeah, they have problems themselves. Yeah. So, and I suspect they've got big problems going forward, actually. But you know,
when Graham always tells me this sort of thing, I say don't be negative, because we were talking about COVID earlier, and I gave him one of those things. I'm the positive one, he's the negative one.
When you said at the beginning, Derek, you know, here we are. Who'd have thought on March the 23rd we'd still be online in October? I think you may recall that when we went into lockdown, you said to me, how long will lockdown last? And I said, we will be doing this for at least a year. So I did think in March the 23rd that we'd still be like this in October. It's just basic virology, really. Yeah. Second wave.
Not ask you how long you think it is now, Graham, with your negativity, because we all want to leave this meeting positive and up for it.
Yeah, well, you know, Boris is about to go on the telly in an hour, isn't he? So to tell us the latest. Anyway, social media. Boris uses social media. So does Donald Trump. That's all you need to know. Twitter. I think Twitter's nearly dead. So for the last few years, Twitter usage has been going down. I saw a study about 2 weeks ago now that showed us that 8 out of 10 people no longer use Twitter. So 8 out of 10 people who used to use Twitter no longer use it. So almost the entire population of the United States doesn't use Twitter. So it's only managed to make slight profit in the last few quarters. And in fact, their biggest profit was because they had a tax rebate. So so it's taken them, what, 12, 13 years to get to where they are. And when you look at all the graphs of social media usage, Twitter is not even an also ran, it's way down the bottom. By far the biggest social media usage is YouTube. So we forget that YouTube is social media. So YouTube and Facebook vie for that top position. So YouTube and Facebook are just way, way, way ahead of everything else, even ahead of Instagram and ahead of TikTok. Who's on TikTok? So Amy's on TikTok. No one else. Yeah, okay.
Is that because we're older than the average and Amy's the only youngster on this?
It could well be. Yeah, it could well be that.
I've seen the body language has changed as a few people when I said that. You know, a few people hacked off with that statement.
It's like a lot of social media, Derek, but it starts off with a very young profile and that profile changes. So the age profile now of Facebook, for example, is the demographics of the country. So here in the UK, I think the average age is 42 in the UK. That will be the average age of Facebook users now. So what you find is that young people start using them and then gradually the rest of the population grabs hold of them. So as TikTok moves into the general population, the young people will move to something else which will replace TikTok for them. So TikTok replaced Snapchat. Snapchat has been taken over by lots of marketing now, so a lot of the young people no longer like it. You don't join a social network to be marketed at. I bet you get annoyed by all the sponsored posts on Facebook and LinkedIn. Yeah,
I do. LinkedIn seems to have gone mad with that at the moment, and I don't get anywhere near as many views to the posts I put up. I've almost given up, actually, which I probably shouldn't do, which will bring me on to the next question in a minute. So
people are disengaging from social media in many ways. Partly that is COVID, because people have replaced that with other online activities like Netflix and Amazon Prime and all those kind of things. So people's activity has changed. And in fact, over half of the data distributed online each day is Netflix. So just if you measure it by volume of data, more than half of it is Netflix. Netflix is only one tiny company with a few 100 million subscribers, but they're responsible for more than half the data online these days.
And that's grown very quickly, has it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So people are replacing what they did in social media with other activities, but also people have become more kind of compartmentalized. So if you think back, now there are some people on here, I can see, I'll just look at the screen to just check here, but it looks like to me that there are some people here who can remember life before the internet. And can't possibly be you, Amy. You're not if you're a TikTok user. So, but if you think about it, your communication capabilities before the internet were speaking to people face to face, phoning them, sending them a letter, or maybe you sent a fax. That was it. Now, a little while later...
I forgot telexes.
Oh, telexes. Yeah, sorry, telexes. I forgot that. Okay, so telexes. And then along came faxes. But then along came text messages. So we could text message people. And then we had email. And then we had all these other things. So you could send a text message, or you could send a WhatsApp message, or you could send a Facebook Messenger message. And so suddenly we've got many more ways of communicating. So what people are doing with social media now is compartmentalizing it. And they're saying, I only use Facebook to contact the people in my local discussion group, my village discussion group, and that's it. I don't use it for anything else. Or I only use LinkedIn to contact my business associates or to find new contacts, new business contacts. Or I use text messaging just for the family. So we're compartmentalizing. So what happens is people get engaged with the new social media and then they learn what its best usage is. So the usage peaks and then it falls. So we're in a state now, because a lot of these social media have been around for a while now, that gradually the kind of usage we're getting is becoming less valuable to businesses.
Okay, 3 questions, Graham. Instagram, you mentioned that's owned by Facebook, isn't it? We don't realize
it is, yeah.
And is that, so that's pretty popular? Is that taken over from people's holiday snaps, or do people market on Instagram?
People do market on Instagram, but you have to look at this whole world of influencer marketing. So there's a whole era of influencers. And so, for example, if you watch Strictly Come Dancing, you will have seen in the last couple of years YouTubers and online influencers being seen as celebrities. They've got another one lined up for the new Strictly Come Dancing on that happens in a few weeks' time. And so those people are influencers, but they're actually making most of their money from those traditional media activities, not from their Instagram account. Yeah. And when you look at public relations companies who are paying influencers millions of pounds, what return are they getting for that Instagram activity? So the most highly paid person on Instagram is Ronaldo. And so he's paid by, I can't remember, I'm going to get this wrong. It's either Adidas or somebody like
Adidas,
that.
It has to be Adidas or Nike. They're the only 2 really big players in football.
So obviously they pay him millions for his influence. But how can they track whether those millions are actually bringing them in millions?
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of adverts on Instagram at the moment. And who's WhatsApp? You mentioned WhatsApp. Who's that owned by? That's owned by one of these.
It's owned by Facebook. Facebook have announced that Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and the ability to send messages on Instagram are going to be combined into a single app. So just as the world is saying, I'm going to compartmentalize, and just as the internet world benefits from niching and saying this app is for this thing, Instagram is combining it all to provide one big thing to everyone, which means from a psychological point of view, people will use it less.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember when I remember in banking, we had, and a lot of our clients had two or three different brands, because if you messed up on one, the client would go to another brand, and actually they wouldn't know it was owned by the same PLC.
Yeah.
No, that's so. What's the next thing? Is my question. What's the next thing that all us all the silver surfers on here, or the ones that are prepared to mention their silver surfers, should be using to get ahead of the game?
Well, ahead of what game is the crucial thing, isn't it? What game do you want to be ahead in? So do you want to be ahead in video, or do you want to be ahead in text, or ahead in audio? What is it you want to do? And I think one of the crucial things is that you've got to pick your lane, as it were. What exactly are you trying to do? And often what I find in businesses is that they're trying to do everything for everyone, and it's not going to work. If you want to be a video star, be a video star, and forget podcasting, forget Instagram, forget all of the other stuff, just stick with YouTube. If you want to have a big discussion and engage with people, then have a group on Facebook and forget YouTube. Just choose what you want to do. So it doesn't matter what the technology is. Choose what you want. Be specific. Choose what you want to do. You saw this in businesses before, that they would go, we're in this business. And then they would go, well, somebody over there is in a similar business, so why don't we buy them? And they would expand by acquisition. And over 10 years, then they become a massive business, and then a new chief executive would come along and go, why are we in all these different things? Why aren't we in our core business? And they'd sell off all the things they acquired. And then another chief executive would come along and go, why are we only in this? Why haven't we got all the associated things? And they'd expand by acquisition. And then they'd go, why are we in all these extra things? And they'd go down to their core. That's what we see on the internet with people trying to do marketing or anything else with social media. They go, why do we do this? We do have a bit of that. Well, if I'm on Facebook, I should be on LinkedIn. If I'm on LinkedIn, I should be on Twitter. I should do this and this and this and this. And then people haven't got time to do anything and nothing gets done properly. If you want to be a video star, be a video star. That's it. Forget everything else.
Video killed the video star, didn't it? Or something like that.
Video killed the radio star.
Okay, I knew I got that wrong. Who was that? That was...
Sorry?
Who sang that? I can't remember. That was
Buggles.
Okay.
The Buggles.
Okay, just checking up who's old enough to remember those names. Yeah, I worked for a bank actually that bought a bank in Italy three times because they sold it 2 years later at a huge loss, and then someone said it'd be a good idea to go back into Italy. We all said, done that, been there, done it. No, new chief executive. That's the quickest way to get fired, to tell people that it's not a good idea. Then they sold it again, and then they bought it again, and every time they lost an absolute fortune, because anyone with half a brain, I'd be careful what I'm saying here, it's recorded, would know that Italian banks are a total nightmare to, and there you go. So
an interesting example online is Skype, because the people who invented that sold it to eBay, and eBay were going to use it within their auction system and didn't. So eBay sold it, having tried it for, I don't know, a couple of years. And they then sold it to the people who'd originally bought it, they bought it from. So they sold it back to the original inventors, who kept it going for a little while and then sold it to Microsoft for much more money.
Yeah. Yeah, that is clever. Actually, Iceland Frozen Foods was a client of mine, and Malcolm Walker, the chief executive, who I knew pretty well, sold and bought back Iceland about 3 times, and he's still running it. I think at the age of 74. I used to have to go up to Mold, which is in the middle of nowhere up in the northwest, and usually get a rollicking for something we'd done wrong, and then come home with a flea in my ear. But yeah, did exactly the same thing. Graham, let's talk for a minute about this using using our iPhones, and then a friend of mine said he couldn't sleep at night, got woken up at 3 in the morning, and I remember you talked about blue light. Give us the update on blue light and using our phones.
Blue light has an impact on your pineal gland, which is a little gland in the middle of your head, basically behind your eyes, between your ears. And that little gland controls your circadian rhythms. And it's involved in the production of hormones in your body and a few other factors that basically help your body determine when you should sleep. And one of the key triggers to that is light. And so the winter is coming on now, and the chances are you will sleep longer in the winter than you will in the summer. And that's because there's more hours of darkness than there is hours of light, and it's affecting your pineal gland. And what happens with blue light is it fools your pineal gland to thinking it's still light. So computer screens, televisions, any kind of display like that produces blue light. And if you have a lot of it, your pineal gland goes, well, you should stay awake. It's not nighttime yet. So basically, you are in permanent jet lag because of this. So blue light filters, forget them. There was a study the other day saying they have no impact. Yeah, so you're being sold a pup really by blue light filters. They don't work. So the only way to prevent blue light is to sit away from your computer and your phone for at least an hour, preferably 2 hours before you go to bed. Now, if you're watching TV, that's fine, because unless you sit right on top of your TV, and because I know you've all got 64-inch screens on the wall, that you're not doing that. You are well down the the lounge looking at your TV, you're so far away that the blue light has been dissipated in the room. So not as much is getting in your eye. But if you're like this with your phone in bed, it's going straight into your eye, and your eye thinks it's daytime, so you can't sleep so well. And if you do get to sleep, your pineal gland goes, surely you should be awake. So it'll wake you up. So no phone use, no computer use for 2 hours before you go to bed. Actually, sleep deprivation and all the problems caused by sleep deprivation are one of the biggest problems that GPs are now dealing with. It's growing all the time. Leads to stress and anxiety, whole host of issues caused by sleep deprivation. It's a massive growing problem.
Wow. I read somewhere that in the UK, people used to sleep for 7 hours and 38 minutes. How they know this, I don't know. And now it's 7 hours and 3 minutes or something on average. I guess that depends on the time of year, etc.
Yeah. The average sleep time has gone down.
Yeah. Okay. So no use of phones and that. What about the guy that wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning, or the lady that wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning and can't get back to sleep? Is that anything to do with that?
Sorry, the traditional advice is if you can't sleep, then get up.
Yeah.
Don't try and force yourself to sleep. Get up. If you're awake, get up, and then your brain will put you back to sleep at the right time. So get up. But crucial to sleep is going to bed at almost exactly the same time every night, having a routine. All of that is really helpful. And one of the problems with social media is it destroys routine. So what happens is your brain, I'm going to ask you all a personal question. Who forgot to clean their teeth this morning?
That's no one, Graham.
No one has put their hand up. Yeah. How did you all remember to clean your teeth this morning?
Habit.
Routine.
Habit. Do it every morning. You've been doing it every morning since you were, since before you can remember. Yeah, from 2-3 years old. Yeah. And you've done it every morning, every night. You get up, you clean your teeth, you go to bed, you clean your teeth, you do it all the time. And that means that your brain knows you don't have to remember it during the day. I bet nobody today has suddenly stopped going, did I clean my teeth this morning? I better clean my teeth in case I didn't do them this morning. And what happens with social media is because you haven't got a routine, you go halfway through the day, have I checked Facebook today? So you pick up your phone and you have a look at Facebook. Or your brain goes, I don't think you've looked on LinkedIn today, so you look on LinkedIn. Without routine, your subconscious will constantly interrupt you because it doesn't know if you've done those things. Once you've done those things by routine regularly, you don't have to check that you've done them. So this is why businesses may have many standard procedures, for have we locked the door at night? You do exactly the same routine to lock the front door of the shop every single night so that you've always locked it. I always remember my dad, we'd be driving down the road and then we'd drive home again because he couldn't remember if he'd locked the front door. And that's because he never did it by routine. It was kind of everything was done in a different order. Whereas if it was done by routine, your subconscious brain doesn't make that interruption. And so set a routine. If you're going to look at Facebook, if that's what you want to do, look at it at 6 o'clock every night or 9 o'clock every morning or whatever it is. Make a routine. Once you've got routines, you won't wake up at 3 in the morning, because part of the reason you're waking up is because your subconscious brain is triggering you because it's just remembered something. I bet I'm not the only person here who has been to a social event or a business event and you see someone walk in and you think, I know that person, but I can't remember their name. Yeah, I bet that's happened to everyone. Yeah, and you spend the entire time trying not to meet them, trying to avoid looking at them, trying to avoid their gaze, trying to maneuver yourself around the room because you don't want to go, hello, you don't want to embarrass yourself. And you go home and you get to bed, and then at 4 o'clock in the morning, you wake up and you go, Angela. And you think, why have I just remembered her name? That's because you've given your subconscious brain a problem and it's been working on it and working on it. And then it goes, right, you wanted to know, so I'll tell you. So you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, remember it's Angela, you go back to sleep, and at 7 o'clock, you can't remember who it was again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's your subconscious brain is really in charge. And so if your subconscious is not realizing that you've checked Facebook today because it's a habit, it will wake you up to make you check things.
Well, at 3 o'clock in the morning, how sad that is.
Yeah. Because your subconscious brain goes, oh, I've just remembered this. You better, it was important to you earlier, so you need to know now. So one of the crucial things is if you establish routines, you don't wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, did I clean my teeth? Because your subconscious brain knows you've done it, because it's such a habit.
Sure. Well, I'm going to ask Amy to talk to us next week about what I call auto writing, and you call it something else, Amy, don't you? About blasting through when you wake up in the middle of the night, whatever comes into your head to get it out your head, which is a technique I learned a few years ago when I was particularly stressed, and it seems to work. I don't know what you do with all that nonsense you write down at 7 in the morning, but perhaps you cover that off as well, Amy, next week, because I know you coach people on it. Okay, Graham, that's absolutely great. And so we probably talked about the advantages and disadvantages of the internet, and we'll throw it open to some questions in a minute. But let's turn to money-saving websites, you know, the stuff that I really like. And you and I often discuss it, and we know people don't use these websites, and we don't know why, because I know that you've saved a lot of money. I've saved a lot of money by using it, which I share with my family, the passwords, and they use it, and the money goes straight into the bank account. So I'll kick off with Quidco, which is the one I use, Quidco, and we've saved over £3,000 as a family over 5 years. And I show this on my seminars because I say you don't need to negotiate if you use the right websites, etc. And they pay it straight into your bank account every month. And people look at me like I've gone mad. The body language is all over the place. Oh, I can't be bothered to do that. And then I say, well, you can't be bothered to save £3,000 tax free. So Quidco is my one. You use some different ones, Graham.
I use Top Cashback, which is a British company. So I've met the owners, and yeah, it works exactly the same. So what both these companies are doing is driving traffic to retailers online, and in return for that, they get money to distribute back to you. So yeah, I use it all year, and then I get the cash out at the end of the year, and that's what I buy all my Christmas presents with.
Wow. Yep. So they're both the same, really, aren't they?
They're both the same, yeah. So you only need to use one of them. So it's basically whichever one you like better than the other, whichever one, you know. So I'd give them. They both have, you know, you can get free accounts and you just sign up for them. So, you know, try them both and see which one works. And what you get is a little browser plugin that goes into Chrome or whatever you're using. And then if you go to a website to buy something, it will pop up and say, did you know you can get cashback on this site? And you just click a button and it does all what it needs to do for you to get the cashback. And then you order whatever it is you wanted to order and you get cashback.
And if you're going on holiday, when we're allowed to go back on holiday, Sally and I went to Switzerland last year. I booked it through Expedia, but the first thing I did was look on TripAdvisor to see what the best deals were. It's a big mistake to book it on TripAdvisor because TripAdvisor get all this commission. Looked in TripAdvisor, picked the hotel, checked it out myself, and then I went to Quidco, went to Expedia that had a good deal, and they gave us 8% cash back. And considering it was £1,000 holiday, that's £80, £80 net, £120 tax, tax paid. As I always think, Will Kintich is laughing at me, but you've got to think of these things, and game on, bring it on. So yeah, what about TripAdvisor and some of these other websites?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you book through something like TripAdvisor, then they're getting a commission out of the booking. So you might find a better deal if you go direct to, say, the Top Cashback website, because you don't know where the deals are, they will tell you where the latest travel deals are, where you can get cashback from. But there are lots of other places to go. So people like Money Saving Expert will look at all the different kind of deals that are currently on and tell you what the best deal is. So I did that recently. I had a letter from the bank. They still send me letters, even though I've said just do it via email. But I had a letter telling me what the interest rate on my savings was. And the interest rate had gone down, as you may imagine, and it was 0.05%. And I thought, that's ridiculous. So I went to Money Saving Expert and found the top savings at that time, although it's gone down now, was 1.25%. So I just opened an account with that bank and transferred all the money and got, a few extra pounds each month because of that, and found that on Money Saving Supermarket. So Money Saving Expert. So that's a good site. But there's always deals. So for example, Amazon at the moment is offering a credit card, no fee credit card. You sign up, they give you 30 quid gift card just for signing up for the credit card. You don't have to use the credit card. You've got 30 quid.
Sound like Martin Lewis.
Well, yeah, but follow Martin Lewis and follow his advice. There are deals to be had online, and a lot of people miss them out.
Or can't be bothered, and these things are really simple, which is interesting. I can tell they can't be bothered because when I re-meet people, I say, "Did you sign up for Quidco or whatever?" And
Yeah,
they say, "No."
Yeah.
And insurance, of course, as well. So. But don't forget, if you want a really good hotel room, you're not going to get it if you booked it via Quidco on Expedia. So negotiating the hotel room when you get there, when it's all paid for, you may not get that. So there are other considerations to take into account, because I always like a sea view or a lakeside view or whatever. So have a think through that in case you're facing the factory on your lovely hotel. I do find that's a bit grim. We're nearly coming to the end, Graham, and we'll get you back again. I just want to tell people on the 5th of November at 5 o'clock at the moment, Graham and I are speaking with Patricia Fripp, Tim Durkin and Gabrielle Gachet. We're going to do a blast across America and the UK with our tips. So please tell other people about it. It will be complimentary, but as Patricia says, we're going to ask for anybody that gets value out of it. Perhaps they'd make a donation to the Red Cross for COVID victims all around the world, and we're going to test how that comes. So they're going to invite their guests and friends. Gabby is from Gibraltar, she's going to invite hers, etc. And if you spread the word, I'll give you more details about that a little bit later. That's the email that went missing that I sent out on the 29th of September, because I didn't have, as Graham told me, DKIM and DMARC on the back of my emails, which I need now. Look at Keith laughing if anyone's got this.
I've been looking at those today.
Keith has been trying to examine this for me today because
SPFs as well.
Did you crack it, Keith?
Well, the place that yours site is on doesn't deal with DKIM, but they're into SPF. So sorting that out.
Just in case Tony Artis is missing today, which is probably a good job, because he would have asked all sorts of questions about that. But he sold his house in Bournemouth and he's moving to Buntingford in Hertfordshire. So that's his good news. Anyway, I'm just going to go through the questions, then I'll stop the recording, and then we'll have an informal session with Graham. Will wants to ask 2 questions, but he might have asked those already. Jill says, read blue light. How useful is it to use apps like f.lux to moderate screen color? And Celia asked the question, does blue light also apply to Kindles?
Yeah, moderating the screen color won't make any difference. It's the technology of the screen, not the color that's coming at you. So the blue light is the the projection of the screen. So you could turn your whole screen red and you'd still get blue light. So it's not going to make a lot of difference. The Kindles, I think the Paperwhites don't have the problem. I'm not sure that the others do or don't, but I think most Kindles don't have this issue because they're using a different form of technology.
Okay. And Will, have you got your answers, or do you want...
No, I've got a couple of things. First of all, Graham, I have a biggest problem as anybody when it comes to names. So I walk in there and they all seem to know me and I don't remember them. So what I do, I go up to the organisers and say, hey, what's that person over there? And they say, it's Graham Jones. Hi, Graham, how are you? So that's how I get around that one.
Good tip.
Instagram, you and I are in the same business. You, me, Derek, and one or two other people are on this call. We're in the same business. We're in the advice giving business. Do you see any practical use of us using Instagram?
You can use it to tell stories of your day. So for example, one way of that is if you, let's say you were running a networking event, running a training session, and you could start off the day by saying, I'm just getting ready for my session. Here I am packing all my kit. And then you post that to your story, and then you arrive at the venue and you say, here I am unloading my kit. And then you say, here's all the people arriving. Here's the people in the room. Here's the kind of questions they asked me. And here they are at the end of the day having a lovely time. And here I am on my way home. And here I am, I've arrived home. And all of those build up into a story of the day. Stories on Instagram like that are really liked by people. They love knowing the kind of behind the scenes of what you're doing.
So I'm just using my iPhone, a selfie video is what you're telling me.
Yep.
Brilliant. Thank you. I'll do it.
Graham, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thanks for that. There is one more question from Amy. With the advent of all social media platforms and algorithms, how do you filter through the noise and stand out?
Algorithms, I hate that word.
I don't even know what it means. I'm a simple boy from Wilson.
It means mathematical equations.
I was joking, don't worry, I was doing my dumb is smart routine there, but thank you.
Yeah, as the education secretary will tell you, algorithms don't work. In fact, one of the criticisms I have of the internet tech sector is their reliance on algorithms in the face of data that shows them that the algorithms are really, really bad. So for example, much of what you search for on Google isn't what you wanted. Much of what people search for, so we know data from Google themselves shows us that of all the searches that are made each day, 1/3 of people never even click on a single result. So they've searched for something, and clearly the algorithm has presented them a page of material they weren't even looking for or was not related to their search. Well, to me, if that's that's a 1/3 failure rate. That's not good for a business. That's not good for an algorithm. And then we know from the 2/3 that click, 80% return to do another search within the next 10 seconds. So it means that whatever they've clicked through was wrong anyway. So actually all of that is a big signal that the Google algorithm is not really that clever. And you know that the Facebook algorithm is not really that clever because it gives you all kinds of things you're not interested in really. And it misses out some of the things you are interested in. And people say, didn't you see I put that on Facebook? And you go, no, I didn't see that. Because the algorithm thought that you weren't interested, and yet you are. So actually, algorithms in the tech sector, I think there's a huge reliance on them when there shouldn't be. However, they are the problem that you've got in terms, as you say, of how do you cut through all the noise that people are making. So, for example, one thing that I do not understand why people aren't doing this at the moment, but since March, most people in business, and even now, if you look in London, the majority of people are still working from home. So why is the post sending less to us? Why are we getting fewer things through the front door than we were 6 months ago, because everybody's going, oh, well, they're all online. So all they're doing is creating noise online, which means that actually to be visible, you'd be much more visible if you sent a postcard to someone. So everybody's gone in that direction, which means you need to go in that direction. So if you're trying to cut through the noise of Facebook, then it may well be the better thing is to not use Facebook.
Graham, we're out of time. Can I thank you for coming on? Anyone that wants to contact Graham, if you're watching this on YouTube or listening to this on my podcast, it's www.grahamjones.co.uk. To contact me, it's www.derekarden.co.uk. Thanks for joining us, and look forward to seeing you or hearing you on the next